on how you feel about Kyogre, that could be an option, or possibly even the Rillaboom as a G-Max drum solo.
Yeah, I think there's several good choices. There were, I think it'll be interesting to see how he plays this first game. I think he has a bunch of options. Then both sides will probably rejigger a little bit, kind of figure out what their opponents are thinking. Because yeah, I mean, they have time to prep, but only a few minutes.
Top 4 of the Vancouver Regional Championships. Gavin Michaels on the top of your screen with an Incineroar Grimmsnarl lead, and Jean-Marc Hebert with Grimmsnarl Zapdos on the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, remind me if you've seen Grimmsnarl out in the field on turn 1 a few times today. But it makes sense, right? I mean, both these teams are built around this. I think it's kind of fun, too, where I think both of them have kind of the option of playing a little more aggressively, but I'm seeing a much more conservative start here where, Zapdos can kind of go either way, where it can either be an offensive threat or start things out a little more slowly, and then both the Grimmsnarl just looking to get set up, make sure this is a longer game where they can show how skilled they are.
Light screen from Gavin's Grimmsnarl on this turn, so that's going to help against the Zapdos' attacks, and reflect from Jean-Marc's Grimmsnarl, so showing both sets of what Grimmsnarl is great at. Thunderbolt, though, into the Grimmsnarl does a little bit of damage, and the parting shot, we didn't see fake out, and now we know why, because Gavin wanted to parting shot that Zapdos, lowering its attack and special attack. What it would have been really nice for Gavin is if he was actually able to bait Jean-Marc into Dynamaxing and getting stuck at -1.
Yeah, I mean, they're not so lucky there where it just kind of gets a bunch of negligible damage, but it does make it really difficult for Zapdos to Dynamax now. So, Jean-Marc now in a position where he's going to have to do some positioning before he's able to really get back into a situation where he's threatening some serious damage.
Groudon is the selection for Gavin to come in after that parting shot from the Incineroar, so that will set up the Sun thanks to the Drought ability. All the fire attacks will have increased damage while the Sun is active. Not sure if it's going to matter if Charizard isn't brought this game, and a lot of times maybe if you don't bring Charizard, or if you didn't bring it, you probably didn't have it because it's not in the back.
I see Incineroar coming in here, so there's another Pokemon that can use the Sun, though may not enjoy any potential incoming ground-type attacks quite as much.
Yes, that is something you have to worry about with the Precipice Blades. Of course, it does help that you did intimidate it, but the Rock Slide from Groudon will connect onto both of them, but do hardly any damage thanks to the Reflect as well as the Intimidate. Here is the Spirit Break into the Incineroar, which is a neutral attack, but doesn't do too much, and he's not going to care about that. So that really was Gavin's anti-Zapdos turn, was Trick Room Spirit Break.
Yeah, though interesting.
Excuse me, Rock Slide. Sorry.
Yeah, we see a Rock Slide, the best move in the game once again.
Yes.
The flinch there.
Yes, and now Groudon is going to switch out after that Intimidate. So all it did was get a Rock Slide onto the switch in there and decides I need to get out because this damage output is just not enough. And Gavin deciding Incineroar will come into that slot again as well. I guess if you keep revolving Incineroar out as long as you can, then you'll eventually get rid of the Reflect that Grimmsnarl set up. Now Gavin has set up his light screen, so it is a bit staggered by a few turns, and then here's Jean-Marc with his Incineroar. Going to have to switch something else in the back. Is it the Zapdos, or will it be a fourth Pokemon?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen any restricted Pokemon from his side of the field. I don't know if we'll see it yet or not. Both sides kind of enjoying just playing it slowly, but we do see Kyogre, a pretty safe time to bring it in. We'll have to deal with that light screen, but not a whole lot of potential incoming damage being threatened here.
Yeah, the light screen won, but then also if Groudon ever switches back in, then you're going to lose the rain boost there. But the Spirit Break into the opposing Grimmsnarl does an okay amount of damage, but it's really not enough. You can't win this one just by Spirit Breaking a Grimmsnarl.
Yeah, I think you probably sit down and make sure you get your snacks, settle in, because it seems like we're going to have a slower game here. I think both sides choosing to play this pretty conservatively. Likely to see Groudon come in, have to take some damage to reduce Kyogre's own.
Yes, that's exactly what is going to happen. So the Drought will come back, and if anyone is experienced in VGC's history, this is a matchup we've seen many, many times with Groudon and Kyogre switching for board positioning. Speaking of switching, Grimmsnarl on Jean-Marc's end will also switch out into Incineroar. Perfect timing because he was actually slower, so that means he got to move to leave second, which lets the Incineroar intimidate Groudon yet again. Water Spout, though, in the Sun into Grimmsnarl is not enough to bring it down low, and Groudon actually takes that pretty well as well. Here is the Spirit Break, though, from Grimmsnarl into Kyogre. It doesn't do any damage, really, but it does get a special attack drop, meaning the Kyogre pretty much has to switch out.
Yeah, I mean, both sides playing this really conservatively. It's a smart play, though. I really like what both of them did on that turn. That Incineroar switching smart, because he understood, okay, Groudon's going to come in on the other side. Like, I get this game that we're playing, so I want to make sure of it. I put Groudon as bad of a spot as I can, because, yeah, I mean, Kyogre, got a little bit of cheeky damage off there. So Jean-Marc is winning the damage trade, but, yeah, both Groudon and Kyogre not looking super fit for battle at the moment.
Grimmsnarl will switch into Jean-Marc's side, getting rid of the Kyogre. So we now actually know all 4 of his Pokemon because the Zapdos switching back in as well. So he did only bring 1 restricted pair on in game 1 here, and the same actually, or Gavin bringing the Venusaur here, so that means he left Lunala as well. The Precious Blades will not connect onto Zapdos, obviously, and it does little damage into the Grimmsnarl. And you know, this will not be the last time we see Kyogre and Groudon switching out to reset the weather.
Definitely not. Although we do wind up in a situation here. I think we see the 2 Pokemon on the field right now for each player is most likely to Dynamax, with the Zapdos on one side of the field and the Venusaur on the other. However, this is not like a great spot to try to Dynamax Venusaur into. Groudon's stats are weakened, and there's a Zapdos on the other side threatening max Airstream, so we do see a switch.
The other threat would be if Kyogre switches down the turn, you then lose your Chlorophyll ability there, so you're not going to have that boost to your speed. But for now, Venusaur will just switch out into Incineroar. And no, Kyogre didn't switch in. Instead, the Thunder Wave goes into the Incineroar, so a nice play there. And the Eerie Impulse as well into the Incineroar, so that it's a perfect switch on Gavin's end, because Incineroar is not going to care about that whatsoever. Precipice Blades can only hit on 1, and it does. Eventually, even through the Intimidates and everything else going on that Grimmsnarl provides, eventually the Precipice Blades could take it out.
I really love the leftovers here, too. We've kind of talked about leftovers not being the most common item for Groudon, but it is fantastic in this sort of match, right, where this one looks like it's going to go a lot of turns, and, that leftovers keep ticking and ticking and ticking, and that Groudon's suddenly looking pretty healthy over there.
Yeah, it's almost like he never even got hit by the water spout to begin with, because of the amount of turns you can do, and that's the benefit that leftovers provides compared to a citrus berry or a pinch berry, that you only have that 1 immediate recovery of the health. But if leftovers, if you're on the field for a very long time, you'll end up earning a lot more health back than those berries hold. Incineroar will switch in, though, to intimidate both of these Pokemon yet again. And now it's time for a Dynamax. Finally, I feel like we're on like turn 7 or 8 of this game. There's been so much positioning going on, and now it's time for the Zapdos. You can go for the Max Airstream, you could go for, maybe a Max Lightning into the Incineroar slot. There's a lot of different things that the Zapdos can do. Has not been hurt by a parting shot or anything at this moment. So the answer is Max Airstream for Jean-Marc. Actually into Groudon here, bringing it back under half of its HP. You'll get a speed boost onto the Incineroar and the Zapdos as well. But here is the Rock Slide. Incineroar avoids. It does connect with Zapdos, but really hardly any damage. There's no same type attack bonus, nothing. The Flare Blitz actually does more because of the sun being up there.
Yeah, I mean, Rock Slide losing its best move in the game status once again. One critical element of that turn, though, is with the leftovers healing up Groudon once again. The leftovers is healed enough now that a single Max Airstream probably not going to be enough to finish it off from here. So, tapping it with Incineroar is not the biggest deal in the world, but it does matter. I assume kind of either way, ideally you're not going to give up Groudon that easily, but there's not a whole lot of safe options for Gavin now. Something's going to have to get chunked by this.
The best you can do is you can probably switch in Grimmsnarl, maybe, because Light Screen should be ending relatively soon. But instead, he actually thinks to Protect is the better option. You will only take a quarter of the damage from this Max Airstream, so that's better than... actually, it doesn't even matter because the Max Airstream goes into the Incineroar. So a nice adjustment out of Jean-Marc, not getting baited by the Protect. That will be yet another speed boost on his end. And Flare Blitz from Incineroar goes into Groudon's Protect. And then the Parting Shot, this is what Jean-Marc had to worry about before. Parting Shot onto your Dynamax Zapdos means you're going to have to essentially eat this special attack drop. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it's pretty smart. And there's like no offensive boost on that side of the field too, right? We're seeing all this speed, so that's going to be a problem for Gavin. But, again, we're in one of these matches where it's so difficult to get any knockout that speed is less important. Speed only matters if a Pokemon is going to get knocked out on the turn or if there's a threat of like a flinch or something. Since there's not here, I mean, who cares, right? I mean, all the Pokemon are going to swing eventually anyway.
So it has been 8 turns so far as both sides, Light Screens and Reflects, have worn off on in this match, so showing that it's Late Clay, obviously, which is the best thing for him. And Groudon is actually going to switch out for Gavin's end, and here comes the Incineroar yet again. They're not even clicking Fake Out very often because they're just switching in and then switching back out. On the turn, no switches for Jean-Marc, though. Light Screen will go back up again for the next 8 turns on Gavin's side, which really help against this Max Airstream. Goes in to the Incineroar, brings it down to around 25% of its HP. So even through Light Screen, the next, well, I guess you're out of max airstream turns actually not even going to matter anymore because Incineroar has that Citrus Berry to recover up a half or some of its HP on this turn. Flare Blitz though will be targeting down the Incineroar as well. So just the last couple of turns, Gavin not having much damage output, but has been very strong position-wise.
Yeah, I kind of really like the way his team is designed in this sort of game where he's a lot of healing. I mean, we've seen the Citrus Berry, we've seen the leftovers. He's like a lot of little different things that kind of give his team an edge in this sort of match. On the other side, most of the health items are kind of designed toward a quicker game, right? You're trading blows. You're probably not expecting to play for the 15, 20 turns that this game could easily go. We're in turn 9 now, and Gavin still hasn't used his Dynamax and doesn't have any Pokemon out who could.
And Zapdos hits a Hurricane though, so that was pretty good for it. Only, not 100% accurate move. And the double target from Incineroar is, we have finally stopped the count. We have a Pokemon knocked out in this set, finally, as Grimmsnarl goes down. Here's the Flare Blitz from Incineroar targeting the Zapdos though, and gets a static ability activation, which will paralyze Incineroar.
That could be a big deal. I mean, Gavin has already struggled with paralysis this weekend, so I'm sure he's not super excited to see that one. But that knockout will let him get one of his more offensive Pokemon in. You're going to assume relatively soon Gavin's going to be looking for that Dynamax. If he doesn't do it relatively soon, it's going to be too late. Probably not yet. You're assuming it'll be the Venusaur, not the half-health Groudon. But one of the problems with the G-Max moves of the Kanto starters, they're great, but you need turns for them to tick, right? You don't want your last Pokemon while it's solo to Gigantamax and then not have time to get all that residual damage adding up.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem because a lot of times it does feel like the person who Dynamax second, if they can just get through the brunt force of the first one, has the advantage. But if you Dynamax too late, that essentially doesn't even matter. You kind of waited too long. Thunderbolt does not get the knockout, though. And Incineroar on Jean-Marc's side will parting shot into the Groudon, lowering his attack and special attack by 1 stage. So now Jean-Marc has to either switch into the Grimmsnarl or the Kyogre. The Kyogre would, help get the sun off the field here, and that is the option.
That makes sense. I think it's likely that Gavin's going to try to pivot himself so we can get that Venusaur out and get that Gigantamax going. But the weather's not in his favor anymore, and Groudon's stuck on the field.
Precipice Blades, though, doesn't hit Zapdos, obviously, since it's a flying type. Does, however, connect onto the Kyogre, and that's a lot of damage thanks to the critical hit. You don't care about any stat drops if you can just crit. But this Flare Blitz in the rain is not going to do enough as Zapdos hangs on with 6 HP.
Both of them getting low there. Kind of a good swing and a bad swing for both trainers there, where Zapdos just barely hanging out. But boy, that's a big critical hit. I mean, Water Spout's such a big deal for Kyogre, where that's just completely off the table now.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you're at such low HP that really you don't even have an option to click that, because you would do maybe 10% damage, because you'd still would do a lot into Groudon, obviously, since it's super effective. But the Hurricane will connect because it's 100% accurate in the rain. Doesn't get a confusion. I was wondering if that would happen here. So this Kyogre is going down. Another crit. That one I don't think mattered as much as the previous one, obviously. But so some good fortune for Gavin, because he has not been paralyzed at this point, and he did not get confused, and he is hitting all of his Precipice Blades as well. This might be turning around. His fortune may be turning around.
Yeah, I mean, Groudon is kind of showing up its rival there. Gets both the crits and proves that it is a speed Pokemon, able to move before the Kyogre there. Big deal and good information for both players.
And now the Venusaur is switching in. At this point, Groudon is likely going to just switch out just to get the sun back in. The Jean-Marc is down to the Incineroar and Grimmsnarl, who are much more supportive in this match, and just a 6 HP Zapdos.
Yeah, so now a great situation there. And again, Gavin still hasn't Gigantamax. I think we'll probably see that, if not this turn, trying to avoid, any shenanigans with Fake Out next turn. Where Gavin, I think he may have gotten a good enough position now, where he's whittled down a lot of damage on the other side. He can kind of just ignore Zapdos now if he wants to, and just wait for the first turn of Vine Lash to tick and knock it out.
Yeah, and at this point, you want a Gigantamax for the health bonus, because obviously there's definitely a Hurricane potentially coming towards that slot with the Venusaur. You want to have as much HP as you can. You want to dodge the confusion, obviously, there. But if Groudon is switching out this turn, then that does give Jean-Marc free reign to just double target the Venusaur slot, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the thing here. I mean, protect and switching seem safe, but he's not even going to bother. Just going straight in.
There we go. Finally, Gigantamax on turn 27 or whatever it was. I know it's not that high, but it feels like it has been that long of a game. We're definitely in the teens at this point on the amount of turns this game one has been, but it is finally time for Gigantamax Venusaur to hit the field. There is the low health Zapdos and Incineroar on the other end. So what does he target? He's not low health anymore, as he is now roosted up his Zapdos. Jean-Marc has brought Zapdos' health back up by 50%, but because of the roost, now you are grounded, meaning it actually matters if Precipice Blades connects. Yes, it does into the Zapdos, and that is rather unfortunate that with the crit as well, the one time you are on the ground is when you get hit by a Precipice Blades.
Hey, Groudon not really believing the type chart, knocking out Kyogre, and now a flying type Pokemon.
Yes, and now the Max Quake from Venusaur. He doesn't even need G-Max Vine Lash in this matchup here because the Max Quake is obviously much more effective. And now with Jean-Marc just down to the little Grimmsnarl, Gavin has found himself with 2 more turns of G-Max plus a potential Vine Lash. He's got game 1.
Yeah, it's incredible, too, but this Groudon's back up over half health. Those leftovers keep on ticking. I think easily the best item for this sort of game. And yeah, I mean, props to Gavin, too. He closed this one out super well. The Groudon, it seems like this would be such a dangerous matchup for it, where there's so many things that can kind of go wrong there. You got to worry about Intimidate. You got a Pokemon that you normally can't hit with your best move, Kyogre, and then even so, Groudon kind of dominated that game.
Yeah, especially the multiple crits. I think Groudon actually landed 3 critical hits in that game. And we know it's not holding like a crit boosting item because we saw the leftovers there. So that's just naturally very fortunate for Gavin. The late game Gigantamax was obviously very helpful for him. And you wonder what Jean-Marc's adjustment in game 2 is, because it kind of like outside of Zapdos, there really was not a lot of offensive pressure being put onto the field through that, what was that, 13, 14, 15 turn game.
Yeah, all 77 turns of that game, I felt like he was really struggling. No, I mean, I think there's kind of 2 things there. I mean, one is I think he'd like to get a little more value out of his Dynamax. I mean, Zapdos did a decent amount, but like it didn't really get him that much closer to winning the game, where like it was kind of useless damage, right? Especially, on Groudon, right, where it just keeps healing and like it doesn't wind up really being converted in anything. The other thing is like, yeah, I mean, don't get crit isn't like the best tactical advice in the world, but yeah, I mean, in a scenario where Kyogre doesn't get hit with that first critical hit, at least it dishes out a little more damage, I'm sure.
Yeah, I guess it's not like sound advice, but it is correct advice. Like if you don't get crit, you obviously take less damage there. I'm wondering if like I know G-Max Rillaboom obviously has a hard time against the Charizard and Incineroar and stuff like that, but like you can take care of the Groudon, and if that's a big problem for the rest of the team, maybe that could be an adjustment.
Yeah, because I mean, I think it's at least you gotta feel relatively safe that Charizard's not going to show up, right? So you really don't need to worry about that one too much. Venusaur is awkward. There's not many attacks you can hit it effectively with, but you do have the advantage, at least on the Rillaboom side, that you're also not going to be affected by Vine Lash. So there's some advantages both ways. That could be an option for Jean-Marc, especially if he wants to keep the game going slowly, right?
That would be problematic, but we are back in game for game number 2, and it is that same lead for both of them. Not sure if that was intentional or coincidental, but it could also just be likely that this is their best lead.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably see Grimmsnarl leads both sides for as many games as we play of this, where both of them just need to keep that damage down to try to keep the tempo of this game up.
There is the light screen from Gavin, just like we saw in game 1. So I wonder if they are just going to click all the exact same moves, and we are. So here's the light screen. The only difference is it's not fully accurate. So the Eerie Impulse actually clicking into or connecting onto the Venusaur will lower special attack by 2 stages. Only thing we care about is Sleep Powder on this turn, and it does connect. All right, it's like nothing ever happened, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, the last 5 minutes were all live. I mean, good for the players. They got a little mental reset. They got a story to tell, and now we're right back to where we should be.
Right, so now at this point, you do have the light screens up. You don't have to worry as much about a Dynamax Zapdos because of your light screen, and you're probably going to switch out the Venusaur, which is exactly what we see. You have the Groudon switching into that slot for Gavin, so he's now shown that. Did not bring Lunala in the previous game. Most likely, it looks like you would assume the Incineroar is the 4th Pokemon as well in this match. Grimmsnarl having to take that first turn of sleep here, and Groudon avoiding the Hurricane because it's only 50% accurate in the sun. Here is the Spirit Break, though. That's a 2-hit KO onto the Grimmsnarl because there is no Reflect setup.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, that's a lot of damage for one support Pokemon attacking another. And I think that could have a huge impact on this match. We saw how difficult it was for either side to get a knockout last game. It just makes it that much more difficult to switch around when you have that much damage taken on one of your Pokemon in the first turns of the game.
Incineroar will switch into the Zapdos slot here, intimidating both of Gavin's Pokemon. It's going to be more impactful on the Groudon here, obviously, as he's the main physical attacker. Grimmsnarl stays asleep again. He probably went for the Reflecto because Grimmsnarl stays asleep, is not able to get that on Jean-Marc's side. Bulk Up will increase the attack and defense for Groudon by 1 stage, so it will negate the Intimidate. And the Spirit Break actually goes into the Incineroar slot on that turn, which was previously Zapdos. So is there a reason to just not claim the KO on Grimmsnarl?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I think one thing, too, I mean, it seems like, if Zapdos had still been there, keep reducing its special attack, maybe the goal is just to see how many bulk ups you can get, maybe a Dynamax Groudon this time instead.
That would be pretty cool. At this point, though, no Dynamax. Instead, the Precipice Blades is going to miss on the Grimmsnarl. That's not what Gavin wanted here. It will, however, bring Incineroar down to under half of its HP. Thanks to the Shuka Berry, though, it does do less damage. Here is the parting shot, negating that previous bulk up boost, putting him back down to -1.
Yeah, I mean, I think any attempts to get too boosted right now are likely going to be unsuccessful, but still, it's a lot of nice damage. I mean, misses what would have likely been a knockout on the Grimmsnarl, but at least it's a bunch of damage to the poor Pokemon. However, very, very free switch-in for Kyogre, and this is a pretty tough spot for Gavin now, where, we're talking last game, Kyogre didn't really do anything, but other than the Spirit Break, oh no, it goes to the Grimmsnarl.
Yes, Grimmsnarl is finally knocked out here, so Gavin is going to take the first KO of this game. You do have Kyogre on the field for free at full HP, so potentially have the effectiveness of Water Spout being as strong as you possibly can. If Incineroar is the option, I was going to say you had Fake Out potential, but no, actually, Jean-Marc opting for Zapdos.
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of makes sense. Where this is the chance now, right? Where you get Kyogre out in the field for free. The rain is up. Groudon's stuck on the field, so it's going to be difficult to reset rain. I think probably you see a Dynamax here, and he just has to go all in, right? I think he's too far behind now, or there's no more just switching for positioning when you're going to start having to take damage on Kyogre every time you cycle.
Yeah, and then the other thing you have to worry about, if Zapdos were the Dynamax option, you have the Max Airstream. You can never switch Venusaur in safely, right? You have to reveal that fourth Pokemon who is likely the Incineroar in this slot. Obviously, that would take the Max Airstream a little bit better than the than the Venusaur would. But for now, Zapdos actually switching out into Incineroar, not even Dynamaxing, somewhat, trying to call Gavin's bluff, seeing what his reaction or what his response to Zapdos would have been on this turn. The Intimidate is going to hurt. It's actually not even going to matter anymore because Groudon switches out to an Incineroar of his own. If Kyogre did click Water Spout on this turn, the Incineroar is definitely not going to appreciate that for Gavin. We can see if the Grimmsnarl went for a priority move. We'll have to actually wait to find out after this Dynamax Kyogre.
All right, so we didn't see the Dynamax. It just kind of wasn't the Pokemon we were expecting. It's going to be an alternate means of trying to keep the rain up, where it can just kind of keep using that max move, and then Incineroar some Fake Out can make it a little safer for Kyogre to be single targeting here instead of the multiple target Water Spout or Origin Pulse that we're used to.
And the scary face from Grimmsnarl, he does get to use his Prankster ability here. That will harshly lower Kyogre's speed. So by 2 stages there. Here is the Max Geyser in the rain into the Incineroar, and that is enough for a one-hit KO.
Yeah, I mean, you don't love to see it if you're Gavin, but I mean, that's kind of what you have to do, right? The position that Jean-Marc put himself in, he was going to get something there. Incineroar probably not super crucial for what's left in this game now. And then Venusaur gets in for free. So we have a Kyogre with very reduced speed facing down. Venusaur now has the option of Gigantamaxing, and Groudon's in the back for at least one weather reset potentially.
Right, and so this could be the moment that Gavin was waiting for. Like, it obviously took a lot more turns in Game 1 to get G-Max Venusaur rolling, but now here we are in the middle of Game 2 where you can just set it up. Go for G-Max Mind Lash. I guess Jean-Marc can really just max guard if he wants to. That would probably be the safest thing.
Yeah, it seems like he has to, right? Where just like letting Kyogre take that much damage here for no trade back seems like it'd be really difficult to recover from.
And there is the Gigantamax of Venusaur for Gavin on this turn. So yes, the next 3 turns, this Dynamax matchup will be a bit staggered as Jean-Marc has 2 left and Venusaur and Gavin have 3. So Venusaur with a max Quake though into the Zapdos switch in. No damage at all on that first turn, and the Spirit Break into Kyogre, lowering its special attack. Max Strike though from Kyogre will connect on to the Grimmsnarl. Not doing a lot of damage, but does get a speed drop.
Yeah, Gavin perhaps anticipating a parting shot from Incineroar instead, winds up misusing the first turn of that Dynamax there. And crucially for Kyogre, it gets through the turn without using that max guard, so it remains an option for this turn.
Yeah, that's actually really, I wonder, maybe just Gavin was really expecting the Max Guard, so he was like, oh, I'll just get the free damage onto the Incineroar, but instead, Jean-Marc making the correct decision by bringing in the flying type against the Max Quake.
Yeah, I mean, it's smart too, because it would have been that much worse. Where not only would you have gotten that damage in Incineroar, but also that special defense boost with, Kyogre and Zapdos being the only Pokemon left who are gonna, or I guess 2 Pokemon left who are gonna dish a lot of damage out on the special side. But it's Venusaur Max Guarding instead.
Instead of Kyogre on its last turn of Dynamax trying to do that, the Venusaur will Max Guard to prevent the Eerie Impulse from Zapdos. Here is the Max Geyser though in the rain towards the Grimmsnarl. It is not enough for a knockout, so the Grimmsnarl is able to Spirit Break yet again. This time deciding to Spirit Break the Zapdos, which is a lot of damage thanks to another critical hit on Gavin's side.
Gavin's Pokemon want to become champion. There's a lot of critical hits that have been pretty critical. Weird spot for Gavin because he had to speed reduce. Trying to get around that Eerie Impulse is a little strange. Grimmsnarl still on the field, still has the option of using another Scary Face, and you'd assume now neither of these Pokemon now they're able to Max Guard. So with the last turn of Gigantamax, going to want to get that Vine Lash damage down, but there's not really any way to prevent it, just to reduce the initial damage.
Yeah, if you wanted to protect, you would take less damage, but you would still get the activation of the Vine Lash effect. Incineroar is switching out into the Kyogre slot. Jean-Marc deciding he needs to save Kyogre for later. If Groudon comes back in, maybe you knock out Grimmsnarl this turn and force Groudon in, and then you can keep the rain up. But Groudon's actually switching in on this turn. That will give Venusaur the effect he needed. Doesn't have to worry about Scary Face if you can just double Venusaur's speed because of Chlorophyll thanks to the Groudon. Hurricane, though, in the sun is going to miss on the Groudon, and here is the G-Max Vine Lash. It goes into the Incineroar slot, so it does hardly any damage. It's probably the Vine Lash effect damage is going to do more than the actual attack did.
Yeah, it's a big deal, though. I mean, Zapdos is pretty low, Incineroar is pretty low. Kyogre really doesn't want to get trapped with Venusaur in the sun up, so picking up a knockout here to try to get control of the game would be a big deal, and Gavin's getting close. Just kind of needs one more swing, and suddenly there's no option for resetting the weather or resetting Intimidate.
The other thing is Zapdos can never roost because, as we saw in Game 1, you're just going to get hit by a Precipice Blade. So you're in a very precarious position as Zapdos because the best way to prolong your matchup against the Vine Lash is just roost up. But anytime you do, you are really threatened by a potential Precipice Blades. Kyogre will switch into the Incineroar slot, though, wanting to preserve that Intimidate just one more time so you can lower it onto Groudon later on in this matchup. Hurricane now guaranteed to hit, will connect onto the Groudon. Does it get a Confusion? No. And Rock Slide connecting onto both of Jean-Marc's Pokemon. That will take down the Zapdos, and now at that point Jean-Marc is down to his final 2 Pokemon. The Sludge Bomb from Venusaur into the Kyogre doesn't do a lot, but it does get a poison. All is well in the world because now Gavin doesn't even remember yesterday with all that, with all the crits and poisons he's getting.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get unlucky, right? And why wouldn't that poison? I'm not sure how critical it's going to be. Gavin wisely picking a 100% accurate move there where, he certainly, whatever grass type attack he knows, potentially could have done more damage, although, if it's Frenzy Plant, which we often see from Venusaur, probably don't want to whack Incineroar with that. But still, you don't really need, he didn't need the knockout that turn either way. So even if you predicted it correctly, just keeping the board in a controlled state, he's still got some more Vine Lash in. Just close it out in a way where, if the luck starts turning the other way, it's not enough to flip the result of the match.
And now with the Kyogre poison, and having the G-Max Vine Lash damage every turn, it'll eventually knock the Kyogre out. So you do have to anticipate a potential Intimidate on, or excuse me, Fake Out on this turn from Incineroar, but he can only target the one slot. Let's see if Jean-Marc makes the right call. Does he Fake Out the Venusaur? No, actually fakes out the Grimmsnarl who switched in, so a great switch from Gavin. Origin Pulse connects onto both of Gavin's Pokemon, though, so that's pretty big because it'll knock out the Grimmsnarl and it'll bring Venusaur down to around 60% of its HP. But all that does is just like Groudon switch back in for free, as Sludge Bomb will be able to bring Kyogre down very, very low. Not enough, though. Instead, the Vine Lash is going to have to finish it off.
Yeah, we could get to see a double knockout for the Vine Lash here. Ticks down on both Pokemon, and there we go. Gavin with the win.
Yes, Gavin Michaels is moving on to the finals here in Vancouver.
Yeah, I love that. It was a really well-played series by Gavin there, is showing how well he can play this, these slower-paced matches.